Hey everybody, Ryan here at etrailer.com. Today on our 2018 Dodge Journey, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the etrailer.com Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver. Now, one of the things that separates this hitch from many of the others is its finish. It's going to have a matte black carbide finish, which is going to be very tough and stand up to the elements very good. Now, another thing that separates this one from some of the others is that it's going to be mostly visible. However, with that matte black finish, it's going to blend in very nice, and there's also an advantage to being so visible. It's going to be ease of use. Since everything's in the open, it's going to be very easy to connect and disconnect any accessories you might have. Now, this is a Class 3 hitch, so it's going to have that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening and a reinforced collar for extra strength. It's also going to have the 5/8 size pinhole, which does accept the 5/8 standard pin. Now, keep in mind it does not come included with a pin and clip. However, if you need one, you can find one here at etrailer.com. It does have a plate style safety chain opening, which is large enough and open enough to use just about any size hook that you might have without interfering with your pin and clip. Many of our customers wrote in and said they like the fact that the hitch allows them to free up space on the inside of their vehicle. And that's because they can use this for accessories, things like a bike rack or cargo carrier. Another thing I like about this hitch is its weight capacity. It's going to have a 400-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating. That's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on our hitch. So that's going to be perfect for those 2 or 3 bike racks. As far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, that's going to be 4,000 pounds, for the amount of weight pulling on our hitch. So that'll be the weight of your trailer plus anything you might have on it. Now, this hitch can be used with the weight distribution system, which is a separate component, but keep in mind, even if you use that, your weight capacities will remain the same. Now, it is always a good idea to check with your Journey's owner's manual to make sure your car can pull that much weight. Now, if you do plan on doing some towing with your hitch, I'd recommend picking up some trailer wiring. That way your lights will illuminate and you'll remain safe and legal. And if you plan on using your hitch more for accessories, and they tend to rattle around and make some noise in our connection point, I'd recommend taking a look at the Let's Go Aero anti-rattle hitch pin, which will help eliminate that noise. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements. These are going to help you when determining which hitch-mounted accessories to use. From the ground to the top inside edge of our receiver tube opening, that's about 14 inches. You're going to use that measurement to figure out if you need to get a ball mount with either a drop or a rise. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, that's going to be about 3 inches. You're going to use that measurement to figure out if any folding accessories you might have can be stored in the upright position without making contact with our bumper. A lot of our customers are surprised with how straightforward the installation was. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and put the hitch on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to need to lower our exhaust. But before we do that, I'm going to use a strap and run it from side to side just to help support it so nothing gets damaged. Over here on the passenger side, up above a muffler, there's going to be a metal strap that we're going to have to take off, and you can just push it off with your fingers. Once we have that off, we're going to need to remove 4 rubber isolator hangers. Now we're going to have 2 on each side of our muffler. To get them off, I went ahead and sprayed them down with some penetrating oil just to make it a little easier. And I'll take a pry bar and pry against the rubber hanger until we get it to pop off. Once you have it off, you just kind of fold it up out of the way. I'm going to use that same technique to get the other one on this side of the muffler, as well as the other 2 on our other muffler. Once we have those rubber isolator hangers released, we can lower our exhaust a little bit to give us some more room. Now I like to point out where our attachment points are going to be. That's going to hold our hitch in place. We're going to have 3 on each side, And each side is going to be set up the exact same. We're going to have one hole right here in the bumper support and two here in the frame rail. Now keep in mind, from this point on, anything that we do to one side, we're going to do to the other. Now we can get our hardware into our attachment points. Now the way that we're going to do that is called the fish wire technique. So we'll take our included fish wire and take the coiled end of it and put it up through the hole, and we're going to push it out towards the side. And that fish wire will come out of our bumper beam, and we'll be able to pull it down. Now we're going to put on one of the large spacer blocks over that coiled end. Then we're going to thread on a carriage bolt. And once we have that threaded on, we can grab the other end of our fish wire and feed that hardware in and pull it down to get it to drop through. Now we can very carefully unthread our fish wire from the bolt. Now for our other attachment points, we're going to use that same technique, and I'm going to start with this hole close to the front of the vehicle. Take the coiled end, put it through, and sometimes it does help to maybe about 6 inches down, kind of bend that fish wire like that a little bit. Get it through and then push it towards the back of our vehicle, and it'll drop down this opening here on our frame. Now we're going to take one of the smaller spacer blocks, slide that over, and again we're going to thread a carriage bolt onto it. And feed that up into the frame. And pull it until it drops down. Once again, carefully remove our fish wire. And finally, we can do that same thing for this hole. And drop it down. Now the only difference here is that we can leave our fish wire attached for now. Now before we put our hitch in place, what I went ahead and did was take the wedges that are included with the hitch and taped them to the hitch. That way they'll stay in place and it'll be a little easier to get up on our frame. However, you just want to make sure that the thick end of the wedge is facing towards the receiver tube opening on our hitch. Now something I do want to point out here on the driver's side of our Dodge, if you have a plug like this up against the bumper support tube, it's a good idea to take a flathead screwdriver and separate this plug from the tube. That way it's not in the way and it won't interfere with our hitch. Now with an extra set of hands, we can put our hitch in place. Run our fish wire through the corresponding hole in the hitch. Lift it up and over our mufflers. And carefully line up the holes in our hitch with our hardware. Once they're all through the hitch, we can take a flange nut, get it started on one of our bolts. Now it's a good idea to get one started on each side. That way the hitch will support itself while we work on the rest of the bolts. Now if you're having a little trouble getting your nuts started on the bolts because they just want to push up into the frame, what you can do is take a small flathead and just apply a little bit of pressure to that bolt. That way it'll stay in place and you can get your nut started. And finally, we'll remove our fish wire and secure that bolt with another flange nut. With all of our hardware in place and hand tight, we can now use a 3/4 inch socket to snug it all down. And finally, we can use a torque wrench to torque all of our hardware down to the proper specification. You can find that torque spec in your instructions. Now when we're rehanging the exhausts, since we lose a little bit of room with our hitch in place, it can be a little difficult to get them rehung. So what I'm going to do is remove them from this top stud, put them on our muffler stud, and lift our exhaust up that way and re-secure it back up here. So I'll take these off with a pry bar, just like we did earlier. And once you have them rehung, don't forget to re-clip your little snap here. Now with the exhaust supporting itself, we can remove our strap. And that'll do it for our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2018 Dodge Journey.